Welcome back, PC Gamers, to the PC Gamer Chat Log. I am Lauren Morton, your associate editor, and I'm here with Molly.
Hey, I'm Molly Taylor, the features producer.
And this week we are bringing Tyler Colp with us to talk about Diablo.
Hello. I'm an associate editor at the site, and I'm also a Diablo fan. I'm mega into Diablo. Can't wait for this game.
Normally I would ask Molly, like, what did you do last week? But we all did the same thing over the weekend, which was play in the Diablo 4 beta, which is what gathers us here today. So, what classes did everybody play? This was like, everybody was hashing it out on like Friday. There were a lot of sorcerers that spoke up. Did we wind up with like all sorcerers, or?
There are too many sorcerers. I went for barbarian in the end. My instinct was, which woman has the biggest muscles? And that was what shaped my decision. So I'm playing a female barbarian. That's the only class I had time to check out because I was not in this country for a few days before the beta. So I've only had time to check out barbarian, but I did see a lot of sorcerers.
Our whole guides team is sorcerers, I'm pretty sure.
I mean, it's the right pick. I think I started out as rogue because I played a sorceress when I was playing the alpha, which is usually what I play. But the rogue, it was funny because I played the rogue and it was like it was a challenge playing a rogue, and then eventually, like on Sunday, I just went a sorceress again, back to the old me.
Back to what you know. Yeah, I did a rogue and I stuck to it. I said I wanted to try the sorcerer also, but then I could not stop leveling and dungeon clearing and map clearing, so I just stuck with a rogue the whole time.
That's actually super helpful. We all played one of the three classes.
I know, that worked out better than expected, actually.
Yeah.
I was gonna pick sorcerer. I was this close, and then I just saw the popularity of it across the team, and also when I consulted my boyfriend, he was also like, play a big mommy barbarian. And I was like, I will play a big mommy barbarian. It was the perfect choice. I've had a lot of fun.
Now that you say that, though, I'm wondering, as we're talking, we all just got out of the pre-order beta, but when this gets posted, it'll be the day before the open beta when lots more people are going to play. And there's going to be a couple more classes. So we had access to the three classes we've mentioned, to the rogue, the sorcerer, and the barbarian. And then next weekend, people are going to get the necromancer and the druid. Molly, the druid is also big muscle, ladies. Are you going to go for a druid next time?
I'm playing druid. Yep, when the open beta comes, I will be playing druid 100%. Druid was what I wanted to try out, but since it's not available in the closed beta yet, that will be my choice over the weekend.
Tyler, are you sticking to sorceress? I'm
going to go a goth sorceress and become a necromancer. Obviously,
yes.
That's the answer. That's always the answer.
Same.
If there's a necromancer type character in a game, I'm playing it. So
same. I'm always a necromancer, so I can't wait to get my Book of the Dead and have my little minion babies running around.
Corpse explosion. It's the best ability in maybe video games, but Diablo for sure.
In all of video games. So Tyler, you played a lot of Diablo 3, right? You're like our Diablo person in the room.
Yeah. Diablo 3, like, it's weird playing this game compared to Diablo 3 because since Diablo 3 was my first like Diablo for the most part, it is like I always thought that game was really dark, but then obviously people talk about that game being like rainbow colored and all that. Playing 4 is like, wow, yeah, okay, this game is very like, it is much more grim than 3 was. And like going back to 2, I played a little bit of 2. It definitely resembles 2 in a lot more ways than it does 3. But I think this game is like, I don't know if it's like better than 3 yet, obviously, but I really do enjoy the tone, especially after playing like something like Elden Ring, which is like a lot of people are more like open to having like very, very grim games like that and very like sad like worlds. I think Diablo 4 is definitely going to like be a big hit in that way. It seems like it's definitely like along those lines, and it feels like they're nailing it so far.
Mm-hmm. And Molly, you're none Diablos, right?
Yeah, so I knew Diablo as a game existed, but I don't think I ever really took a second to think about what the game was. Like, I've never played it. I've never really engaged with, like, the only Blizzard game I've ever really played is Overwatch. I played a little bit of WoW, but Overwatch has just primarily been the only Blizzard game I've ever played. I've never played Diablo before this. I never thought I would be someone who would enjoy it, so I guess I just kind of steered clear from it. It seemed like a game that was too much for my tiny gamer brain. You're a non Diabloer as well, right, Lauren?
Well, yeah, so I'm kind of right in the middle of you two because I like never played any Blizzard games, oddly. I played Path of Exile, like I think the main campaign I got through for Path of Exile, and that might have been it. And then I played other action RPG like things and other MMOs, and I might piss people off. I'm going to start calling Diablo 4 an MMO because fight me.
It basically is.
It basically is, right? And that's not what I expected. I came into this beta and into Diablo 4 hoping to have a replacement in my heart for Mollie's going to make fun of me for Guild Wars 1. Because, look, Guild Wars 1 is and was the MMO that I first fell in love with. And it was like not like almost not quite an MMO because it had like town hubs and then instanced combat areas, right? It was like sort of almost mostly an MMO. And that's what Diablo, the setup was like architecturally to like, as I understood it. And I was like, oh, but now they're adding in some things where there's going to be these world bosses and sometimes you'll see other players, but like I saw players a lot. Like I was around people a lot. I was like, this is just an MMO, I think.
Yeah, it was so bizarre.
It feels like that is the goal.
It's cool though. I like it.
Yeah, I was gonna say, are we for that? I mean, extreme Diablo fans maybe not for it. They may not be happy, but
maybe
I
not.
don't know.
I mean, I'm okay
for Diablo
with it,
MMO.
but yeah, I mean, like I already like MMO, so I'm good with it. But I mean, maybe not. I think if they do a good job at like, you see people kind of around the towns, it feels like, and then after that, when obviously you're doing the dungeons and stuff, like you're mostly alone. So I still think it feels sort of like solitary, that in the way that Diablo is supposed to feel like. And it's still, I mean, you know, Diablo has always been a multiplayer game, so it still feels like it's just sort of like maybe just hinting at like you can have people helping you, and it's totally fine. That's what this world is about. So it feels a Diablo to me.
Yeah,
it's a nice balance. Yeah. It's definitely a nice balance, and we're all MMO players anyway, so
yeah,
yes, of course we'll like it.
We're into it.
Yeah.
Speaking of other MMOs, because you two come from the land of Final Fantasy, I was a Guild Wars 2 person and like Elder Scrolls Online. Character customization and like having different visuals is really new for Diablo. Like that was not a thing of the past, right? Where the classes even like visually locked and gear was your only visual change, Tyler? Or was it even...
I believe in 3 you were playing like individual like named characters in a way, or like say they looked like
Path of Exile is.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. The most you had was just dying armor, which you could do here too. So, but yeah. The customization in this game, it's not like extremely extensive, but it's got good options. I mean, I like everything that you can do.
It ain't no Final Fantasy as far as
it's not Final Fantasy. You cannot be a cat girl, unfortunately.
No,
but I was impressed. I was surprised.
Yeah,
me too. Yeah, like it's limited, but in a way that doesn't feel limiting, if that even makes sense. Like it's basic, but I think everything is like all of the armor I've encountered so far. I've loved all the armor.
Yeah, the armor was really good. Yeah.
The armor's amazing. Like I couldn't believe it. It feels just the right amount of limited for what the game is trying to be, I think.
I just need to know where the black dye is, because I need everything black. I'm gonna be a necromancer soon.
I didn't even think about that.
Was there only gray?
There isn't. Yeah, they have like, I think they're doing it on purpose because in Diablo 3 the white and black dye are really rare, if I remember right, just like in Final Fantasy. So I assume it's going to be something like you maybe have to buy it in the store, because there will be a store in this game. So
In Guild Wars 1, I mained a necromancer who wore all black and white armor, and the black and white dies are always the rare ones, the ones people want. Those were like a secondary form of currency in Guild Wars 1. Like if you wanted to trade a certain amount of extra money, you would actually just be trading black and white dies because they were worth like a certain amount. Anyway, I'm gonna piss people off talking about Guild Wars. I'm sorry. That's what I wanted from Diablo, and I think I might be getting it actually.
It's because that's how you've been playing the game.
It is. I
literally called you a Guild Wars player yesterday. I said, you are playing this like a Guild Wars player.
Yeah, before I say what I did the whole time, what did you guys spend most of your time doing?
Go
on, Tyler. No, you go first. You tell them, because
I did a lot of things. I did lots of exploration. I mean, I played some of this beta, or like, it was an alpha when I played it last year. So I kind of knew vaguely like where a lot of this like story stuff was. So I spent a lot of time just like running around and like looking for like the statues of Lilith or whatever they were called, which give you like bonuses for like, I think is it every character? Like if you pick it up on one character, you get them on all of them. Yeah. So I was doing that, and then a lot of it was just playing around with like the skill tree, because I didn't get a lot of time with that in the alpha. So I was like just like seeing what rogues could do by just like switching up. I love that you can like just change your skills like whenever you want to, like right between battles essentially, which was also very useful on the rogue, because I feel like the rogue is like I don't know if you guys saw, but like the rogue is like extremely underpowered compared to like the sorcerer. Like the sorceress like slash sorcerer is like just has like easy abilities that just like wipe through massive like rooms of enemies, and then the rogue is like doing like overtime to try to like squeeze out damage without like getting murdered on some of those bosses, because the bosses in this game are difficult too.
The bosses were difficult, and I thought I was doing pretty decent as a rogue. Like I was having a good time, and then yesterday I co-opted with Sarah a little bit, who was playing as a sorcerer, and she just straight up like laser beam stuff. Like all of a sudden there's fire everywhere, and I was like, oh, okay, well, I'm here.
That's mostly what I wanted to figure out, because it feels like rogue is a class that's very like dependent on its like a class mechanics, which is like having the combo points and stuff. Because once you get that at like 20, I think that stuff gets 15. A lot more. Or 15, yeah. You get a lot like stronger in some ways, but it is funny that like sorceress just has like tons of extremely powerful abilities, from the start.
Yeah, I was reading that apparently Barbarian is like not in as good a place as what I was like, I'm having a great time. I was like, I'm loving playing Barbarian, and then I went to Reddit and everyone's like, Barbarian is in like such a different place. It's like playing a completely different game, Barbarian, compared to like Sorcerer. And I was like, oh, okay. I was like, that's really interesting. But
it's because traditionally Barbarians are like extremely strong because they like super scale with like Diablo 3. They just like if you level up a Barbarian, like they're probably one of the strongest classes, because they just have like incredible scaling and stuff. But so far in the beta, the Barbarians are like very difficult to play.
Yeah, we're struggling a little bit. I saw a lot of people saying it was just very gear dependent at the minute. So it's only level 25. I've only just reached level 20 myself, because I was spending far too much time ferrying back and forth to the blacksmith to salvage for new transmogs. That's what I was spending a lot of my time doing.
Salvage everything. Do it for the outfit.
Do it for the outfit. The Final Fantasy player in me really was just coming out full force. The thing is, I haven't changed my outfit in like so many levels at this point, but I keep going back, like salvaging new transmogs, and then going to my wardrobe and like looking at them and be like, that's cool, and then going and trying to find more gear. That's pretty much what I did a lot of. I haven't finished the story yet, and I haven't done all the side quests or anything. I've just been fashion.
Good news for you, the progress carries over to the open beta, so
and then they're going to murder her. They're going to murder my character. Murder her dead when the full game comes out. I'm not ready to say goodbye to her. I've become like super attached to my little Barbie already, and I'm not going to be okay when they kill her after this beta's over.
I think someone asked, like, how do we like save the characters we made or whatever? Like maybe not the progression, but just like the character customization. They were just like, take a screenshot. I don't know. We don't have a preset thing. So like,
that's what I did. I took a bunch of screenshots of your gear.
of your
Yeah, like I
favorite
said earlier.
transmogs.
Yeah, you were just playing like a Guild Wars player, Lauren. That's how you played, right?
Yeah, I mean, I'm just an obsessive map clearer. I can't help myself. I have to have every waypoint. I have to have every area. The map has to be completely open. I have to finish the story so that those waypoint or those notifications are not on the menu. I had to have all the altars of Lilith just in case. I sent Sarah a screenshot of my map this morning for a guide she's writing for the site, and she was like, "Oh, that's a very clean map." And I was like,
It's a very clean map.
"Thank you. I have one job here." I can't stop myself. I have to get all of the stuff. And as Molly pointed out, 100%ing the map, very Guild Wars of me. But yeah.
How did you feel about 100%ing the map? I mean, was it interesting to do? Like, was there lots of fun stuff to find?
I mean, I'd say I came dangerously close to 100%ing the beta. I didn't end up doing all of the small dungeons. Like I think there were like 23 of them. And because I was splitting my time so much, I didn't finish all of those. And I was really close to finishing all the side quests, but didn't quite get all of those either. Did I have a good time? I think so.
The Guild Wars player.
So here's the thing. I admitted to a friend who said, "How's the beta?" And I said, "I'm having fun, but it's in that way where you're like, I know this is bad for me." Like, the meme of the, like, whatever kid it is in The Simpsons on the freaking bus, the image macro that's like, I'm in danger. Like, that was me this whole weekend, just like, I'm in trouble.
That was my problem with the alpha, and now it's like playing this game like, oh no, this is not good for me. Yeah.
Me just hoovering up enemies, hoovering up map stuff. But no, I did genuinely have a good time, not just like in an obsessive fashion. I would say I really enjoyed the itemization and all of the affixes on the gear. Is that not the affixes? Yes, the affixes. Which one is it that has the special abilities?
Yeah. I mean, legendaries do. Yeah.
Yeah. So
but I think it's affixes.
There were a lot of ways to mess with the stats of your gear. I mean, you can go to the blacksmith and you can upgrade the gear. You can go to the alchemist, or not the alchemist, one other person, and you can like extract affixes. You can extract the other like stats as well. They have a different name other than affixes.
Yeah.
You can put gems in. You can there may even be yet another thing. And I really enjoyed the special abilities that those affixes gave you. Normally, I'm not good about like gear swapping for minor stat gains, Some people are really great about that, about seeing 5% critical hit chance increase after killing enemies that are poisoned, and they will turn that into a build that meaningfully feels different. I am not good at that. I am not actually a very good like build theory person, but I had an affix that every time I dodged and every time I used my shadow step ability to like teleport behind an enemy and stab them, it would drop stun bombs behind me. And I got very attached to that. I really enjoyed that. And at some point I lost it. At some point I was just swapping gear too fast, like got rid of a bunch of stuff. And I felt it when it was gone. I was like, where are my stun bombs? Dodging out of the center of a big group of enemies. Stun bombs go off. Then I lay into them with my cone of arrows. And then I shadow step behind another one, leaving behind more shadow bombs. So I really appreciated how much I felt the way that I was changing my gear in a way that I normally don't in RPGs, I would say.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there was a
lot of like really good legendaries, and even from what I got, that definitely like made me change. I don't know. Did you ever like change your skill tree like points just because of a piece of gear? Because I definitely did.
Nope. I changed. I was having a lot of trouble picking up because like barbarian, they have like one. It's like a you have like one two-handed weapon. You have like a sword, and then you have like two, like you have like a dual wield. And I was really struggling with like I had like a bludgeoning weapon, and I was using like my main DPS was like a bludgeoning one, and I was really struggling to find a good bludgeoning weapon, and I ended up like refunding all the points and putting it into dual wielding instead, because I had really good dual wielding weapons, and instantly like I had such like a much better time with enemies because my gear on my dual wielding was much better. And I kind of like it how cheap it is. Like it gets more expensive to refund as you level up, right? But I was still finding that it wasn't that expensive to just rip like 7 points out of my main DPS and put that into like another DPS. And I really liked that. You can sort of really experiment on the fly.
Yeah, that was something I really liked in Diablo 3 is they really want you to like experiment with abilities and just changing them around. I was even like, because I was really experimenting with the skill tree this time. So I was like even changing it per area sometimes just to see if like, well, these enemies seem to be like not as grouped up or whatever, or susceptible to this attack. And it definitely like, it just allows you to just change on the fly whenever you want to, which was nice. I also had to change for some bosses too, because I was playing on, was it like the whatever the harder difficulty is, I forget what they're called, like World Double 2 or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so some of the bosses were like destroying me on Rogue, so I eventually like went a ranged build for one of them, for example. So it's really great that you can just do that.
Yeah. Tyler, did you find any affixes that you were really into that like really
I'm trying to think of, I know I had one on Rogue that like made it to where I think it gave me like a bunch, because some of them do give you just like skill points into things that you don't like already have like points into, so the item just gives it to you. So I know I had one that was like, I forget whatever the shot is like piercing shot is one of their abilities when like it just goes through a bunch of people and it's like a big, like it feels like a shotgun shot, which is funny. I found some like ability that basically like imbued it with shadow, which is like one of their basic abilities, but I already put a bunch of points in that shot, so like imbuing with the shadow and then making it like explode enemies just meant that like I was nearly like one-shotting everything for a bit, and it just like, you know, like having it like just send through a ton of enemies and then just like instantly kill them was nice. It felt like I was a sorcerer again, but it was like, yeah, it was one of those things where it's like I wasn't necessarily going to use that ability, but seeing that it like gave me all these extra skills, I had enough room, because you are a little limited, because I think you have like 4 slots of abilities to use, so it's like you can't just like pick up everything, but combining those together and then becoming like I feel like to me like that's sort of like maybe potentially at least what rogues will end up doing, is like really playing off of their gear in that way. But yeah, that was a good one. I can't remember if I had one on Sorcerer. I know I had one on Sorcerer in the alpha that was like, I think it just made it to where like I had blizzards just spawn on me. Well, I think that was enchantment, which is their like class mechanic, but still like I had a powered up blizzard that was just like randomly spawning on me, which was great, running around and bringing snow.
Nice. As far as bosses go, did you guys have any that you specifically remember being just like either a pain in the neck or really cool? I liked the variation. Some of them I saw a few times and like, they were fine, but there were a couple that I thought were pretty cool.
I'm trying to think. There's one that was like a werewolf. I don't remember the name of it, but that one was a nightmare.
The den mother that everybody was talking about.
Yeah, it was just a nightmare because it's like melee attacks constantly, and there's like, because you have a dodge. Every character has like a dodge in this game, and it is useful, but it's also a little bit hard to time in the way that like MMOs are, right? Like you're getting clipped by things because like they're like the lag or whatever it is, just the way the hitboxes are. So that boss was a little bit difficult on Rogue, especially for me, because it was hard to like get out of the charge that the werewolf thing did. So it was just hard. But I'm trying to think. There was a really cool boss design near the end, I think. And it felt like it almost looked like an angel. Maybe it's supposed to be like one of those like big wings. And it was like sort of like drenched in red. Like it looked like blood almost. It was very
Blood Baron.
Yeah, maybe. Yeah. And it was just very like, oh yeah, this is Diablo. This is pretty sick. This is like very good.
Yeah, that dodge has a cooldown of like 3 whole seconds or something.
Yeah, it's a long time and you can definitely screw it up. So yeah.
Yeah, that dodge is tough. I had one. I think it was a story. Dungeon with like a mother and daughter. And at the end you have to like fight the mother. But I leveled up during this dungeon, and like I'm not super sold on the world scaling yet. I'm not 100% sure, because I went from having like a relatively easy time and then I leveled up and all of a sudden everything was just taking like so much longer to do. And I think I died like the only time I've died is dying 3 times to this one boss, because I was just getting like hit from every direction. I couldn't put distance between me and the boss, because then I couldn't hit it. So
that was the problem with melee. It's really hard to play melee on the bosses in the beta, because they're just like so long range and quick, and they hit you really hard. Yeah, I definitely noticed like the scaling had some issues too, where it felt like level 18 specifically for me, which is like extremely hard compared to every other level. So I assume that stuff will probably get like, ironed out. But yeah, the scaling is interesting, because this is the first Diablo game with scaling, if I'm correct. I'm pretty sure. So that's going to be a big deal, because like I think they said in like a developer like stream that they're going to try really carefully, obviously, to make it feel like you're powerful. But it is the first time where like enemies from like older areas are just going to be a little bit harder.
Yeah. I remember fighting that den mother that you were talking about, Tyler, and I saw that like I think a lot of people were kind of struggling with her for that reason.
Yeah.
And I didn't end up dying to her. I did get through it on the first time, but I went back and looked at the clip I took of it, and it was a little difficult. And I think the only reason I got through in one was because I fought her at level 25. So she was scaled to me, but I had already picked up a lot of like special gear skills like we're talking about, and like other bonuses, and like had certain stuff invested in my skills. So even though she was level scaled to me, like my use of gear and skills was like prepared to take that on, I think.
It was funny going back through as sorcerer for the same bosses with the rogue, and like I think I almost like one cycled some of those bosses like before they even did any of their mechanics, because sorcerer's so strong. Yeah.
There was a particular boss fight. It was like the first oh my gosh, what's it called? Like difficult area. There were 3 of them on the map. What are they called? Stronghold. The first stronghold, and I forget what the name of the town is for that one, but it's like just north of the starting area. And the final boss for that is like a trio of succubi.
Oh yeah, together. That one was hard. I did the one yesterday. Yeah.
I had to come back to that fight, because that is one that I was like, even though it scaled to me, I was not ready for that fight.
There's a bunch of like AoE attacks, yeah, and then one of them like charges you or like breathes something at you, and it instantly, at least for me, it instantly killed me even on the sorceress. So I had to use one of the potions that like give you like increased armor or whatever, and I like barely got that one done. That was hard.
Yeah. That one was a lot of fun. It was frustrating to have to come back and do it again, but I was really happy when I did it, because like the main one is a little bit stronger, has more health, and then like the other 2 are like supporting.
And you really have to like it's sort of teaching you. It feels like you have to focus. You have to kite around, which is definitely a Diablo thing of just like running, clicking forward, and then like clicking back to get an attack out and then leave. So it was challenging. It was cool though, because like, I don't know. I just remember a lot of stuff in Diablo 3. I mean, obviously the harder difficulty stuff does get challenging, but I do remember, in Diablo 4, it feels like there are times where, like you do have to just be like, oh yeah, I can't do this right now. I need to come back with like better equipment or whatever, which again, to me just feels very like even Elden Ring of like everybody getting used to like, oh yeah, Morgott is kicking my ass. I'm going to leave for a bit. So I like that.
Yeah. Did, another thing that makes me call it an MMO is the world bosses. Did either of you guys... I think, Molly, you wouldn't have gotten to play until after it had spawned a couple times.
Yeah.
Did you get to fight the world boss?
I completely missed the world boss. That's my plan for this next weekend. It seemed cool. I saw people doing it. Yeah,
I made it to a couple spawns, I think 2 of them, and then the other 2 were like 2 a.m. and 4 a.m. my time on Saturday, and I was like, no, I made it twice. I'm not going to stay up till 2 a.m. to fight Ashava again. But it was cool. It was... I think I had like somewhere between like 10 and 15 people there for that fight, and she's this like giant plague creature. I think they call her a plague bearer, and I swear when I read the official blog post, the first like 2 times that I read it, I was convinced I read plague beaver, and I was like, oh, giant beaver of plague, but no, just a plague bearer.
There are polar bears, so I don't know.
It made me fight so many polar bears.
Yeah, there's a lot of polar bears. Yeah, a lot of mean trees too.
Polar bears. Ashava was cool though. Lots of like poison AoE stuff, and she has like these really huge, like sweeping arm attacks too that'll get you. Like that pretty much will one shot kill you. At least like all the people I was with were constantly like running back from the waypoint that they were rezzing from, and like your gear starts breaking. So yeah, it was neat. I hope they get like a little more complex even.
Yeah, like does she just sort of attack everyone, or is it like is there like a barbarian that's like tanking her in some way, or is it really just like everybody attacking a giant boss?
It was pretty much everybody like underneath her, dodging, running, getting away from the like giant arm swipes. And I think a lot of people
sound like an MMO boss.
Yeah, I mean,
like a
literally,
boss, yeah.
It was very much like if you've done Elder Scrolls or Guild Wars 2 or any other game that has world bosses, it was like that. But it was fun. I think there was another public event too, not just the ones that spawn randomly. There's the little like red circle ones. Right. But when Sarah and I were playing together yesterday, we came across one at one of the strongholds that was like a really big local event, and like lots of people showed up to that, and it was MMO levels of everybody's spells flying everywhere on screen. I was like, oh, hello. Like, goodbye frame rate. I've been here before.
I heard that the boss drops like a bunch of legendaries too, right? Or it's a very like high chance.
Yeah, I think it's just a higher chance. I don't remember exactly what I got from them, but
because I know, did you see that people were killing like a level like 35 enemy that was dropping like level 35 armor? And like there's like one dude that is like too high of level, and if you kill him, he drops like higher level stuff, and then you can basically like take that stuff and like I forget whatever the name is. It's not like disenchanting. I forget. It's one of those like NPCs, and you can basically take the affixes or whatever and like you put it on stuff. Yeah, and you can also I think there was a way. I know there was a way to like take a legendary and swap it out, and then have like a legendary that is like higher level than you in terms of stats. And then wear it, and then that's and people were like soloing the boss, like the world boss, apparently.
Naturally,
which is wild. There's a glitch right now, I think, where you can like lower the level requirement for an item through some process.
Yeah, I forget. Yeah, that's exactly what they did.
I forget what it is. But yeah, I saw some people talking about that. Yeah, I'm kind of sad I never got to try the world bosses this time round. I will try for it next weekend when I'm actually at home the whole time and have a little bit more time with it. Did any of you encounter the treasure goblins?
Yeah.
I actually didn't. I just realized I never did. I did an alpha, but not here. I'm sad. Yeah, I didn't meet a treasure goblin. I'm sad.
I think I got 3 in the end, just having like a little wander around. Yeah, I somehow managed to get through. I got some good stuff out of the first one, if I remember correctly, but the second and third one, like at first I was like, "What the hell is this thing?" Because my Diablo knowledge is like, I don't know if this was ever in any other Diablo, but I don't know shit about this game. Yeah, I was like, what the fuck is this little thing? Just like scurrying around, dropping coins everywhere. So I was like, me with like my big barbarian axe trying to chase after it as it's running away from me, because I didn't have like any like gap closers yet, because I've got like a gap closing ability now. So I didn't have any of that at this point. So I was just like running around with my axe, trying to like dodge to close the gap between us. But that was good fun, actually. That was something that I did not know was in the game and was not expecting. So I enjoyed my little treasure goblin hunt.
Nice. Did you get anything good from it? Do you remember?
I think from the first one, I think I got like some legendary boots from the first one that carried me for a little while, and then I don't remember what I got from the other two. But it was the adventure. It was the journey, not the destination. You know.
Were they in dungeons or were they in the open world?
In the overworld, yeah. Just I was just traveling to a quest, I think, and just clearing those little like orange circle event things. I don't know what
they're like public things. Yeah.
Yeah, I was clearing like some events along the way, and just the little bastard appeared out of nowhere. I was like, "Hi, who are you?" Yeah, so
they should have a thing where like when you log in to your character, there's like a % chance where you just play as a treasure goblin. You have to run away from other players.
It's turned into a 4v1 PvP situation.
Finally, you can play as the loot in Diablo.
the most wanted. Yeah, I was definitely really into the events. I definitely liked those. They're I will say it's kind of like classic modern MMO, so it's not like it's some reinvention that they're doing. It's more of a like, aha, I know those, I'm familiar with those situation, and less of a like, oh, what a cool new thing they've invented. But I do enjoy a multi-stage event. The one in the like northern stronghold of Fractured Peaks is the one that Sarah and I ran into, and it involved like running around to different areas, like destroying these like plague tumor things, and then you had to get the 2 plague guys before you could go fight the main boss in the center of the stronghold. And so it was a big group effort. It was a good time.
Yeah, the strongholds are pretty fun. I mean, like, I feel like it is kind of cool that they become like just like normal towns afterwards, for at least some of them, I think. Not all of them have like the waypoint things, though, the teleport like things, but at least I do like that. Like, I do like that, like, part of this game, at least narratively, is like it is like a bunch of people are dead from Diablo 3 because like there was a lot more people, and then they all got like Thanos snapped essentially. But it is cool that like you can like bring back some of the like humanity to the world a little bit, so it doesn't feel super grim. Because that was like one of my worries, is like this game is just like, you know, it's Diablo, it's Blizzard. I'm not maybe always a fan of Blizzard writing in some places, but it is nice to see that there is like some light in this world. It's not super dour, which is good to see.
Yeah, I didn't realize how depressing a game Diablo was. I should have guessed. I should have guessed. But I was like, I watched that like opening movie that I think was in like a trailer or something. I never seen it before.
First like big trailer, yeah.
Yeah, I have just gone into this completely fresh. Like, I have not really engaged with anything, and I was watching this trailer, and I messaged my boyfriend, who he's like a big Diablo person. He gave himself like carpal tunnel playing Diablo 2 or something. I forget what it is now. It's a very embarrassing story for him, but I was messaging him and I was like, what the hell is this game? Like, it's so like visceral and disgusting.
Yeah,
and I was like,
everywhere.
It was gross. It was so gross. Like, I'm kind of into it, but it's also so gross in a way I was not expecting. Like, this game, for someone who has just never engaged with Diablo, I got such whiplash from
Did
how,
we
like,
all do the side quest with the dude that's like flayed with all the chains?
Yes,
I got to that last night.
God, that was gross. Yes. Oh my goodness. I like walked
he just
over
is like
to
screaming
it.
more. It's a lot.
Yeah, that gave me like such chills in a good and a bad way. I walked over to it. I didn't see it at first, and then I did see it, and I was like, "Is he like?" And then I realized, yeah, that was in fact that man had been flayed, and I was like, "Jesus Christ!"
He got no skin,
did you not get that, Lauren?
It. I did. Oh, I did last night. It was oof.
Yeah. It was grim. It was so gross. I mean, I loved it, but it was so gross.
I'm just thinking about like the end of that intro cinematic that you were talking about. There was a point at which I realized that Lilith had a cloak of entrails, like all these people's guts that were spilling out of them up in the air. Like that became her cloak. And I was like, oh gosh.
It was disgusting. It was so gross.
I need that dye is really what I need, but yeah.
Yeah, I want that cloak. Can we get that cloak as a transmog, please and thank you? Yeah, there is a lot of gross stuff in this game that I guess, like, it's weird, right? Obviously, it's very obvious to a lot of people, but when you have never in your life engaged with a single thing, Diablo, it's very surprising just how dark and depressing the game is. But I liked it.
Yeah, I think they do a good job at like the balance of like, obviously some stuff is extremely absurd, but then they do have like the treasure goblin, so there is some like, there is like, I feel like there's just a little bit of like, they understand that this is very like ridiculous in some spots, but then they also take it seriously when it is like Lilith or whatever. Because that was one thing with Diablo 3 where it was like, it was just kind of comedic sometimes on how dark it was. And I feel like they just do a better job, especially with like the soundtrack. I really like the soundtrack in the beta so far.
Too.
It's so moody great. And it's so like subdued. I think that's really good. Like the good part about it is it just feels like it's sort of there in the background, but it's never like, sometimes maybe it's like, a big deal, like during like a big cutscene, but otherwise it's like pretty much out of the way, but in a good way.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Tyler, you're talking about the grimness of Dark Souls or Elden Ring. Yeah. And I was kind of thinking that as I was walking around the open world, I was like, this is like visually dark, thematically dark. Both of those things are fine, but I do wonder if we're going to get some later zones that are a little more like, they don't necessarily need to be brighter or more colorful, but more like fantastical, like to look at. Like when I got down into some of the dungeons that were like frozen ice and stuff, I was like, oh, this is nice. Those were this.
Like cool teases for maybe other areas. Yeah. I mean, like that's typically a Diablo thing. They do usually like play around with like, way more fantastical areas. And you usually start in like a place that's kind of like more calm and like, barren, but hopefully.
I want to get my stepping out into the Erythiel Boreal Valley moment. Yeah. That's what I want to have that eventually. Yeah. Did we have any like nitpicks? We've all been talking about how excited we are. And like, I am excited, but I can come up with one or two things that I'm like, that annoyed me slightly. Do you guys have any?
Yeah. I think the biggest thing was the UI made no sense to me. The UI was like, the UI was kind of like fucky in a way that I wasn't okay with. Like, why is the chat box on the right? I didn't even perceive that the chat box was there. Until like maybe about 6 or 7 hours in, I'm like, oh, there's a chat box, and I just had no idea. So then I see like text pop up, and I'm having to crane my neck to look at what it is. The chat box, the UI is like, it's okay. I think it can be improved. Yeah, like it's fine, but I definitely think
it looks a little generic in some ways. Like it looks kind of just like a very like dark fantasy UI, but yeah.
That was probably one of my biggest pet peeves. And like some of the dungeons felt a little like, especially when I played for about like 8 or 9 hours straight yesterday, I think when, especially at the end of a long session, when you're in another dungeon and it's like, oh, this is like just a little too similar to the last like 2 dungeons I did. Like they look great. Like they have great atmosphere. I love the way the dungeons look. I just hope there's a little more variety in.
You don't like finding 2 keys for a door?
You go in one direction, you go in the other direction.
Yeah. Sometimes they're books, Tyler, that you have to pick up and put on an altar. That and like the enemy variety, like those 2 things combined, sometimes it was like, okay, I'm fighting skeletons in the same kind of vibey dungeon again. And I quite like dungeon crawling, so I was mostly okay with it, but I think just a little something to stop my cursor from like gravitating towards YouTube to have something to watch while I like farm out a dungeon or something,
And some of the dungeons are, because they're supposed to be procedurally generated a little bit, right? But they felt very similar because I played 2 characters. They just felt very similar, surprisingly similar compared to Diablo 3. And like that was actually one thing too. Speaking of the UI, I also didn't like that you can't have like the overlay of the map like on your like like sort of a semi-transparent being able to like run around and clear out the map. I was surprised it didn't have that because like every Diablo I'm pretty sure has that. I mean even other like action RPGs, but they don't have it here, which I'm surprised about.
That was a bummer.
Yeah.
Do you have any other stuff, Tyler?
Yeah, I'm trying to think of anything. I mean, I think one thing we'll see. I don't know. I'm very curious to see what they do with like some of the narrative stuff they're doing so far. I think sometimes becomes a little too dark, like the quest with like the little kid that's like a ghost or whatever. I think some of those quests where it's sort of like it's just extremely grim for like not a real good reason. It feels like sometimes some of the stuff in the game is like people are just dying, or there's like children that are dead, or like nobody's good. The dad was bad all along as well, or whatever. And I think like sometimes there's a risk with this world and Blizzard writing where this like game is just like extremely like dark and like vile in some ways for no reason, I guess. Like that's mostly my worry. Because that's something like I'm going to keep talking about Elden Ring, but like, you know, Elden Ring is really a dark game, but it has like, you know, really lots of different like angles for like different characters. And like, there's obviously tons of people with different outlook on the world and stuff like that. I just hope there's like a variety, and obviously we're only playing one act, so we'll see. But yeah, I just worried like them going like we're going back to Dark Souls 2. Say that I'm Dark Souls brained, Diablo 2, and like the darkness of that. I just hope that, you know, it feels like a 2023 game. I hope that it feels like that in terms of like, let's not just be like super like juvenile, I guess, in the way that like this game is really dark. Like I hope that isn't like Lilith isn't just the villain, you know, in the really obvious way that like they're showing it so far, but we'll see. I'm just a little skeptical because like Blizzard has trouble sometimes, I think, especially with like women, especially like people like Lilith. But also like in Diablo, they've had stuff that is just like that. There's a level of darkness that I feel like is sort of like too far, I guess. And it just feels sort of like self-indulgent in a way. And so I'm just mostly just worried this game. I mean, I don't think there's anything in the beta that makes me feel that way exactly, other than like that one quest. But it is something that I think they could easily get into if they want it to be extremely, extremely dark compared to 3, because 3 doesn't have a lot of that. But yeah, so we'll see.
Yeah, you just don't want it to like devolve into just pure trauma porn, right? Like,
like I think the dude chained up is kind of funny and it is really pretty messed up, but like that maybe is like as far as I want to go. I don't want to get into like
that's my limit.
To the point where it gets like samey, right?
Yeah, exactly. Like if it's just like hammering home like, oh, this world's really dark, everyone's like morally gray or everyone's evil or whatever, it feels like it will just get kind of cliche.
Yeah, if every dude was flayed and chained up in the middle of in the middle of a snowscape, then it's gonna get old after a while, right? Just one dude.
Every town has a guy that's flayed.
Needs a guy that's flayed and chained up, and
just weirdly horny about it.
Yeah, which is
well, I think. What about you, Lauren? Have you got some complaints?
I think similar. You guys have kind of covered it pretty well. Things that I was thinking about: the darkness, the enemy variation. Mine was really specific. I really like the modifiers on enemies, like the ones that have mortar, the ones that are vampiric, the ones that can teleport. But then there's one specific modifier that's just increased.
We hate moderators.
I hate moderators. Modifier for just increased health. That's it. Just increased health, and it would show up on something like a spider hatchling, like 2 spider hatchlings in a group. And I'm like, I do not want to hit a spider hatchling 20% more times than a regular spider hatchling. And like any enemy, I'm like, why just increased health? I don't want that. Take that one.
And I wonder if some of that is the scaling. Yeah, because there is a boring like modifier. Yeah, like I hope that stuff gets like, cleaned up a little bit, because it definitely felt like, why am I hitting a little spider like 30 times suddenly when like I've killed everybody else? This is kind of stupid. Yeah,
because some of them are really cool. Like I like the mortar ones, the ones that can like rain down fire on you and whatnot,
or the ones that like trap you too. Like those are fun too. But
yeah.
I didn't even perceive that they existed until you were on about them, Lauren, and then I started. I don't know if they're on like the first. Well, are they on the first world? Because I started playing on like the world tier 1, and I played maybe like my first. Are they on them? I didn't even perceive it because I played like my first. I want to say like 3 hours on world tier 1, and then when I was comfortable enough, I went over to the second world tier, but I didn't even perceive them. And then I just was like, why is this like fucking thing taking so long to die? And then I just
always like an enemy that doesn't matter. It's never like a big enemy. It's like,
why does it have more health? This is silly.
Yeah.
And then I finally spotted the modifier, and that was it. I was like, God.
So I'm the only baby that stayed on world tier 1 the entire time. You guys both went for harder.
I think it's fine, right? I think I was just like, I was having a slightly too much of an easy time, and the leveling was like getting a bit. Like I wanted to hit level 20. I wanted that little. I'm a sucker. I wanted the little.
Did we all hit level 20? Right, for sure.
Yeah. I just hit level 20. Rewards. Like, On my lunch break before this podcast, I hit
the wolf pup. The wolf pup is cute.
Gotta get the wolf pup. Yeah, so we're nearly at the end here, and since people are about to be jumping into the open beta, what's your like priority number one for going back in for the second beta weekend?
I think trying out co-op, because that was something that I did not have the pleasure of doing. Trying co-op and also trying druid. And I want to experiment a little more with builds this time because I didn't really do much tinkering with the skill tree. So I think this will be a really good opportunity to just experiment a little bit and try co-op, see how it feels with other people.
Yeah, I think I am gonna obviously play Necromancer. I might try Druid a little bit, but I really want to like see like all the different builds for Necromancer, and then also try co-op and then the world boss. Those are kind of my three big things. But I just want to do Corpse Explosion. That's all I want to do. It's so good.
So we're co-oping this weekend. Is what we're going to be doing.
Yeah.
Yes. We're gonna have 2 necros. That's fine. Because I also want to try the Necromancer for sure. And I guess maybe I should try being on a more difficult world tour tier. Maybe.
You can try it.
You can do it.
And then I guess I want to mess with the like Purveyor of Curiosities, where you like take those murmuring opal things and then you get a random gear roll, like magic gear. I started doing that. Yeah. I started doing that right at the end, and I really want to mess with that to like see what other legendary affixes I haven't seen yet. Like I really want to find some like cool affixes that have like interesting effects.
That's kind of why I want to play like a lot of Necromancer and just be level 25 and just keep like kind of getting legendaries and see what happens. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Oh yeah.
Awesome. Well, that was our first weekend of the Diablo 4 pre-order beta, and we're about to all jump back into the Diablo 4 open beta before it launches on June 6th, right? Full launch is June 6th. Yes. Awesome. Cool. Well, thanks for chatting about it, guys. And everybody else who's going to be jumping into the beta this weekend, have a great time. Remember to co-op. Remember to make it to the world boss and try everything out. So later.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.